All right, so I've wanted to react to this video for a while. This is an interview that Zohran Mamdani did on, I believe, on the Sunday talk show Meet the Press, and this is where he gave the quote, "I don't think we should have billionaires," which, you know, on its face is deeply problematic, I would say. But let's watch the whole video and kind of see what he has to say, because let's be honest, I know for myself, when it comes to Zohran Mamdani, I've mostly just seen snippets and clips of him. It's very easy to be taken out of context in snippets and clips. So I just want to see the whole interview and kind of like make a judgment call for myself and what I think of the guy.
Welcome back. A stunning political upset this week in the race to lead America's biggest city. 33-year-old Democratic Socialist and New York State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani is poised to win the Democratic primary for New York City, beating out former Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's now set to head to the general election, but his likely primary win is already sending shockwaves through the Democratic Party. And joining me now is Zohran Mamdani. Mr. Mamdani, welcome to Meet the Press.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. There is so much to discuss. We have to start with your remarkable victory in the primary for mayor. You're 33 years old. As I just said, you started out at close to 0% in the polls, Mr. Mamdani. You came back to topple one of the biggest names in New York politics, Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
What was the secret to your success? Do you think it was your message? Do you think that voters were voting against Andrew Cuomo? A little bit of both? How do you see it?
I think ultimately it was the focus on the fact that we live in the most expensive city in the United States of America. It's also the wealthiest city and the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and yet 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty, and the rest are seemingly trapped in a state of anxiety. And what we've seen is that this is a city that needs to be affordable for the people who build it every day. Our focus was on exactly that, and by keeping that focus on an economic agenda, we showed New Yorkers that this could be more than just a museum of what once was. It could be a living, breathing testament to possibility.
Now, one thing I really like about sort of some of the modern socialists, what I've seen, not that I support socialism at all, but one thing I like about them is that they've emphasized improving quality of life for a lot of people. You know, there's certainly ways to do that without socialism, but it is certainly appreciated that they're making such a focus of their campaigns. I do sort of want to push back, though. I think that a major reason why folks in New York City are voting against folks like Cuomo, folks like Eric Adams, is more because of corruption. Because we've seen how, you know, they all have sort of had their own hands in steeped, or what is it, paths steeped in corruption. Like we've seen how they've all had their hands in corruption in some way or another, and just in various forms. These are very scandal-ridden candidates, and when you're talking about like an establishment lane, it's really hard to succeed when you have big scandals like what Andrew Cuomo has, and like Eric Adams has had to face as well. So I think that the reason why people are voting for Zohran Mamdani is largely against the corruption that we've seen from the previous class of establishment mayors and politicians in New York. But I will give Zohran Mamdani credit where credit is due, because times are tough for a lot of Americans right now. And so to look them in the eyes and say, hey, we're going to do better, we're going to make life more livable for you, especially in the face of, you know, legacy politicians who've been saying the exact same thing but have been delivering nothing for the people of New York. I think that is sort of like an added bonus for sure, if not like a ×2 multiplier or something. Like, I do have to give him some credit there on his approach being appealing for a lot of citizens.
Well, let me ask you about what I was just discussing with Senator Chris Murphy. The fact that you have leaders Schumer, leaders Hakeem Jeffrey, who wrote very nice things about your victory, said you'd won a very strong campaign, have not endorsed you. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has endorsed you. Do you think the Democratic establishment is afraid of you?
I think that people are catching up to this election. This is an election that went against so much of the analysis that had been told about our party and where we needed to head to. And ultimately, what we're showing is that by putting working people first, by returning to the roots of the Democratic Party, we actually have a path out of this moment where we're facing authoritarianism in Washington, D.C.
Well, let's talk.
Okay. Authoritarianism. Okay. Maybe we should slow our horses a little bit. I mean, Donald Trump is no more authoritarian than what we've seen in presidents past, I would say. So, you know, I am a little bit annoyed by people acting like things like what's it called? Law enforcement are examples of authoritarianism. But honestly, par for the course for Democrats. We should probably just move on.
Talk about your policies, your vision for this city. Here are some of the things you've proposed: free buses, rent-stabilized housing, a $30 minimum wage, the creation of city-owned grocery stores. It's a very long list of proposals. So let me ask you, if you were to be elected the next mayor of New York, what would your day one priority be? So
kind of on some of those things, I actually sort of agree. Well, I only agree with one of those things. I think about it. I thought there were two. Maybe I need to listen to it again. But the one thing I do agree with is city buses and stuff like that. Public transit should be free. I have never understood this. Why you pay taxes to fund forms of public transportation that you then have to pay to use. That makes no sense to me. Just put the full cost of the transit system inside of the taxes and then just let me use it as much as I want. Like, I think that you're double taxing your citizens to use a public good, and you're taking money away from people who aren't even using that system. Like, okay, you want to take the taxes for building and maintaining the metro, fine, but then don't charge me again when I actually want to use the thing that I paid for. Like, that's insane. I've always thought that was kind of crazy, and that's kind of absurd. Now, for the whole, city-run grocery stores, obviously that's problematic. I probably don't even have to explain the problems with that because I think it's a little bit obvious. The $30 an hour minimum wage is also equally ludicrous, because that is just going to be an inflation machine. Prices are going to get incredibly inflated in New York City. It is going to price out a lot of people. It will make life a lot harder for the homeless as well, because, if prices are ballooning up, that makes it even harder for the homeless to survive. They're getting donations from people nearby, but if the amount of money that they get from citizens doesn't increase, which it might for all we know, it would certainly make sense to some degree if it did. But even if it didn't, they'll be able to afford a few things with the money that they get from panhandling, and then that'll just make life harder for the homeless. And if you don't have a job, I think it just makes life a whole lot worse, because you might be able to get on federal assistance or whatever, but still the money is just not going to go as far, unless maybe Mamdani has a plan to increase the amount of assistance for the unemployed, which for all I know he might have a policy for. I haven't read his whole fact sheet or website when it comes to all of his policy positions and stuff. So to be fair, he might have a solution for that problem. What was the other thing that he said that I didn't wasn't a fan of?
Grocery stores. It's a very long list of proposals. So let me ask you.
Rent stabilized housing. No, I don't like that. That's almost as bad as the real page stuff. If landlords own property to make money, and if they're not going to be able to make money, which things like limiting the limiting what rent prices can be might do, then you're going to see people just stop giving rent to people, and then you're going to have a housing shortage. that's going to be a problem. The government may step in and buy those places, but then, of course, you have to worry about maintaining everything, and usually those types of things just start crumbling very quickly. I've never heard of federal-run apartment housing that has maintained a high quality of service and living conditions for those living in that city or country or wherever, and also hasn't collapsed due to just not being a sustainable system. So the majority of these policies don't love. I do like the free public transit, though. I think that that's a genius idea. I feel like everyone should be embracing that, to be honest. Like, I would love to see the justification for, like, hey, you should have to pay twice to use the metro. Like, you can't make a rational argument for that. I feel like you can't.
If you were to be elected the next mayor of New York, what would your day one priority be?
The first thing is living up to these promises that I've made, because I've made them because I intend to keep them. And in a city of about 8.5 million people, close to 2.5 million New Yorkers live in rent-stabilized housing. The mayor, through a board called the Rent Guidelines Board, sets whether or not those rents increase or stay the same. The previous mayoral administration froze the rent 3 times. This one, led by Mayor Adams, increased it by 9%. So the first thing that I would do is start to constitute a board that votes in reflection of reality. And the reality I'm speaking of is that the median household income of those tenants is $60,000 a year. The landlords of those units have seen their profits increase by 12%. It's time for relief for working class New Yorkers.
Okay, well, of course, the big question.
Okay, well, I mean, part of it is I think that you need to crack down on companies like RealPage. Now, I will say, of course, I'm a capitalist, but I think RealPage has sort of shown that you've got, it has basically led to collusion amongst landlords to raise rents in order to maximize profits to an absurd degree, kind of pressure, kind of push renters to as close as they can get to the pain point without leaving. But the problem is that RealPage is so commonly used to set rent prices that it ends up being collusion and basically price fixing for an entire region or even the entire country, depending on which area is using RealPage. Like, if you've got a computer that says, hey, raise your rent by 20%, and like 80% of landlords are using it unthinkingly, then what you're gonna see is just rent just go up. I feel like we need to have government policies that say, hey, you are not allowed to use your system, software, or advice from someone who is giving advice to others about what to set your prices. You have to do your own analysis to determine what your rent prices should be. And I think there you'll probably see more variation in rent prices. You'll also see fairer prices because a lot of these people are just like using these systems automatically, not even really thinking about the prices going up or down. But if they were to sit down, they'd be like, you know what? Maybe bumping up rent by 10% this upcoming year for this next lease for this tenant actually doesn't make sense, right? When I see how much I'm making, how much the renter is making, like this just doesn't match reality. I'm not going to do this. I feel like that would fix a lot of the problems when it comes to rent nowadays.
Question is, how are you going to pay for it? You've proposed increasing taxes on wealthier New Yorkers. The Democratic governor, though, of your state, Kathy Hochul, says she's not going to support increasing taxes in order to get it across the finish line. I want to let you take a listen to a little bit of what she had to say recently and respond on the other side. Here she is.
I'm not raising taxes on people at a time when affordability is the big issue. I'm actually cutting middle class taxes.
Even on the wealthy.
I don't want to lose any more people to go to Palm Beach. We've lost enough.
How are you going to raise taxes if you can't get Democrats to support it?
So I think what we've shown over the last 8 months is our ability to take that, which is considered a
show of hands.
To support it.
Here's what I want. Here's what I want. For the live viewers, I want you to put this in the chat. For the people watching on demand on the NBC Highlights channel, I want you to put this in the comments. Show of hands. Which of you guys enjoys paying taxes, and not only that, but wants to pay more of them? Show of hands. Show of hands. I kind of want to get the temperature in the room. Kind of figure out, why on earth possibly raising taxes isn't the most popular thing in the world to do.
So I think what we've shown over the last 8 months is our ability to take that which is considered a non-starter and make it seem inevitable. We've shown that with this campaign, and ultimately we're seeing that our vision to tax the top 1% of New Yorkers, these are New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, and our proposal is to just tax them by 2% additional, is something that has broad support and will continue to increase that support over the next few months and years.
So you think you're going to be able to twist Governor Hochul's arm and get her to support raising taxes? I mean, what about the fact that she says she's concerned New Yorkers might leave? They might go to Florida.
I think
And that is true, actually. They will leave and they will go to Florida. One thing, too, is that there are a whole lot of extremely wealthy people who live in New York City, and they love all the amenities of New York City. There are a lot of nice things to do in New York City. There are a whole lot of nice places to go in New York City. Very fancy areas. And I think it's a major driver of the New York economy. By trying to exorbitantly tax those very people who are keeping your economy going is sort of a ridiculous idea. It's like I could make an analogy, but I feel like it might not actually do justice to how ridiculous of an idea it is to be like, hey, we're having a problem in New York City where the economy is having problems. You know what we should do? We should take away money from the people who are spending the most in this city. That will make the economy better. Like, no, it won't. Because, the way the economy works is people buy things at places, funding, keeping jobs afloat, funding those jobs, allowing people to earn a living. That's how the economy works. At least under capitalist system, which, we all know Zohran Mamdani is not a fan of, but that's how capitalism works.
I think it's time for a leadership that doesn't twist arms, but rather builds partnership. And I'm looking forward to having that with the governor, because ultimately my policies, my vision, it's driven by an assessment of what's actually happening. The Fiscal Policy Institute found that the top 1% of New Yorkers leave at 1/4 the rate of other income groups. And when they do leave, it's actually to other states considered high tax, New Jersey, California. So it's not fiscal policy.
So rich people don't go to Texas, rich people don't go to Florida? Kathy Hochul said a whole lot of rich people going to Florida, and I'm inclined to believe her there.
It's quality of life. And ultimately, the reason I want to increase these taxes on the top 1%, the most profitable corporations, is to increase quality of life for everyone, including those who are going to be taxed.
Here's how the Washington Post editorial board wrote about your proposals. They say a massive minimum wage would depress low-skilled employment. His rent freeze would reduce the housing supply and decrease its quality. Cutting bus fares would leave a transit funding hole that, unless somehow filled, would erode service. Meanwhile, the grocery business operates on thin margins, and his plan for city-run stores would probably lead to fewer options, poor service, and shortages. Mr. Mum?
I think that with the whole grocery business thing, it really depends on what the prices are set to for the groceries. I would not be shocked to see them sort of undercut capitalist, privately owned businesses and sort of drive them out of business. If that's what happens, then yes. What they're saying here would probably happen, but it's also possible that they set the prices to be equal to or higher than what existing grocery stores are selling their products for. And if that's the case, then it probably won't hurt, the supply of groceries in New York that much. Now, let's go back here.
Business hole that unless
okay, I do want to talk about this part here where it says cutting bus fares would leave a transit funding hole that, unless somehow filled, would erode service. I actually think it's fair to increase taxes for bus fares, like to cover the cost of bus fares, to cover the cost of however much the average person spends on a metro system. Because, hey, look, it's public. It's supposed to be for everyone to use. If you're, in my opinion, if you're paying for the system, you should be able to use it. If you're paying for it and you're not using it, well, hey, other people can use it, right? Like for the streets and the roads, right? That's public. The streets and roads are public. So when you pay your local taxes, that is for the maintenance of the streets. I don't think it would be reasonable for like a public road in some town somewhere to be like, oh, you can't use this road unless you pay us a tax on the road. Like, I do note that there are toll highways and stuff as well, and I am not a fan of those either. I understand why they exist, but I'm not a fan of that either. because it's like, bro, I paid for that road that you're letting me not use. That's ridiculous. I actually would take like a 1 to 2% higher tax rate if I could just access all forms of public transportation without having to pay any additional funds. So, and actually, if that was the case, I would use public transportation more as well. Especially for getting short distances. Like it's like a waste of it's an unnecessary waste of gas and space and things to just go from one side of town to the other when I could just use a form of public transportation.
Somehow filled with a road service. Meanwhile, the grocery business operates on thin margins, and his plan for city-run stores would probably lead to fewer options, poor service, and shortages. Mr. Mamdani, are your proposals going to hurt the very people you're trying to help?
Not at all. There have been many in editorial board who have had concerns, and what we've shown is that more than 400,000 New Yorkers are excited about this vision. And the reason they're excited about it is one that is in line with the scale of the crisis in this city.
I don't know if, I could be wrong, but I think that one thing that you'll never see Zohran Mamdani do is point to a place where publicly funded grocery stores have worked, for example, right? Or point to a place where rent fixing has worked, because that is just generally not how it goes. Usually when you implement these sorts of things, it just results in an economic catastrophe. So I think it's kind of unfortunate that he's pushing these, proposing these policies, and also that very clearly New York City citizens are fans of those policies, at least to extent where they would vote for it. But to be fair, again, I can't really blame them when their alternatives are these lying, corrupt politicians who keep on giving these false promises about improving quality of life, but they're never delivering on those promises that they keep on providing.
We are talking about our tax base growing smaller and smaller each day, with New Yorkers leaving to New Jersey, to Pennsylvania, to Connecticut. If we do not meet this moment, we will lose this city. And our proposals are ones that are thought out. They are ones that are also clearly going to be funded by these revenue streams. I'll give you an example. When we talk about grocery stores, I've put forward a proposal for a pilot of one grocery store in each borough. These are 5 grocery stores that would cost $60 million in a city budget of more than $113 billion. And ultimately, the reason that we are so excited by them is we've seen that they've worked in Kansas. We've seen that when a feasibility study was done in Chicago, it was shown to be something that was not only feasible, but pressing and urgent in an urban setting. And
hold on, so I'm going to look this up, because I actually didn't know that they had this in Kansas. Oh, here's the headline. Kansas City poured millions into a grocery store and they still close. Well, that's promising. Hold on, wait, what is this? Kansas City's government-backed grocery store failing customers? What the heck? Bro, the place is empty. Yo, you can't make this up. You can't. I feel bad for laughing because this is like pretty bad. Kansas City's failing government-funded grocery stores are an international infamy for its empty shelves and rotten smells. What is this? This is crazy. A shocking state of $29 million government-run supermarket in notorious Mad Max City. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. And this is going to be real quick, because I know this is a long interview. I just want to see a video of someone walking in the store. This is crazy. 3 months ago, they were saying that they were struggling to stay afloat.
Well, yesterday, as a voice for everyone, we amplified the voices of frustrated customers and community leaders over the deteriorating conditions at the Sunfresh grocery store, the one located in the Linwood Shopping Center off Prospect.
Basically nothing. It's like it's nothing on the shelves.
I said before, there was
I mean, a lot of the times when people talk about like the state of something, they're exaggerating, but they're like very clearly that's not what's happening here. There's like nothing.
time this store was on life support.
That's so bad.
I can tell you today, right now, it's damn near dead.
Yo.
That grocery store has received financial assistance from the city, but has been unable to keep shelves stocked. This area in the past has often been referred to as a food desert. So tonight, KSHB 41 reporter Alyssa Jackson going in depth with this issue to help find answers and solutions for shoppers.
A Sunfresh Market has been on the corner of Linwood and Prospect since 2018. The store was a part of an East Side revitalization project that put a spark back in the community. I'm going in depth to find out why, after millions of dollars invested, the store is still struggling to remain open. Empty shelves and coolers, a lack of prepared hot and cold food turns shoppers away.
Like, I thought it was just the produce aisle, but it looks like the entire place is empty. This looks like a dead mall, but for a grocery store.
Hey, not before they smell a rancid odor coming through the door.
We need answers, because at the end of the day, that don't make sense.
The state of the market now on Kansas City's east side is not what the community expected in 2017.
We need this so badly.
When the presence of the market and shopping center looked like a new beginning. The city of Kansas City owns the shopping center. Sunfresh is part of a community improvement district, meaning the city does make money off of a 1% retail sales tax on purchases to help pay for the development. The entire Linwood shopping center was a $15 million.
Okay, so the juice is still there. Okay, so it's stocked with juice. Credit where credit is due.
Private investment. Last year, the city council approved $750,000 for security, lighting, and infrastructure supported by federal funding.
No security, got a problem. No product, you got a problem. And here, maybe, soon, no store. We really got a problem then.
The ownership group of the Sunfresh is actually a nonprofit called Community Builders of Kansas City. The group declined an interview, but sent a statement saying in part that it has worked tirelessly to provide food and necessary services to the urban community. For years, it has been vocal of the challenges it faces. Community Builders' concerns and fears are well documented. Meanwhile, 7 years after opening its doors, the store is already in need of another spark to stay. So what is the city doing about it? The city
I'm just shocked at how empty the shelves are. That's
manager's
crazy.
office said staff is working with the property manager and other partners to address concerns. There have been tests to investigate any plumbing issues and smells. The city also wants to change how it spends some.
That's not the primary concern. Your store has no products. Your store has no products. That's the problem. That's the main problem. I think people would endure some bad smells if they could get what they needed from the store. At the end of the day. That's what they would do. But you have a store with nothing to sell when your store or your store shelf looks like this. Okay? I don't think that the plumbing is the biggest problem. But okay, so now we see the result of what Zohran Mamdani would like to see happen. So yeah, let's resume this interview here.
Is we've seen that they've worked in it would cost $60 million in a city budget of more than $113 billion. And ultimately, the reason that we are so excited by them is we've seen that they've worked in Kansas. We've seen that when a feasibility study was done in Chicago, it was shown to be something that was not only feasible, but pressing and urgent in an urban setting. And finally, it costs less than half of what the city's already set to spend on subsidizing corporate supermarkets without any guarantee of cheaper prices, any guarantee of collective bargaining agreements, or that they accept SNAP or WIC.
But I don't think those shelves are empty though. So that's a big plus. Hey, we got Bray Leno here in the chat. What is up, Bray Leno? Yeah, there's badges now. You gain XP by chatting more in a stream, but I think that XP expires after the stream is over. I think that they just need to make it so that XP is just like permanent. So like whenever you send a chat message, you get XP and it stays there. Like a lot of popular Discord bots do this. Twitch started doing this like 2 or 3 years ago. I thought that was really cool. They need to do this in YouTube as well. In my opinion, I think it just adds like a fun little aspect to it. But I will say that I think that it incentivizes more people to chat in an individual stream versus just like in general over time. I could send a lot of chat messages to like on like 2 or 3 streams from a YouTuber, have like a whole bunch of XP and then not feel like I need to keep on chatting in future streams. So I can see why they limited it to just individual streams, but I think in the future they really need to make it so that, you know, it's permanent. So if you are you are watching a stream from a particular person, you send a bunch of chat messages, that accrued XP remains the same for the following stream. Like I just think that that would just make things a whole lot more fun and a whole lot more interesting.
Take me to my next question about grocery stores. Some executives, including one of the top grocery stores owners, billionaires, threatening to shut down his supermarket in the city. John Catsimatidis, who runs Gristedes Grocery.
Castamo what? Okay.
Down his supermarket in the city. John Catsimatidis, who runs Gristedes grocery chain, you're probably very familiar with him. He said this on election day, quote, "If the city of New York is going socialist, I will definitely close or sell or move or franchise the Gristedes locations." In order to run New York City successfully as mayor, do you not need the support of a billionaire businessman like John Catsimatidis?
I don't know if I need his support specifically, but I want to make clear that my vision for this city is a vision for every single New Yorker, including business leaders across the city. And the reason I say that is that my proposals, even the ones to increase the top corporate tax rate of New York to match that of New Jersey, are ones that would also benefit those business leaders. Because when I have conversations with them, what I also hear is the just how expensive this city is preventing them from attracting and retaining the talent they need to grow their business. And ultimately, I'm looking forward to having those meetings, having those sit-downs to make clear why this vision would benefit all.
We went on your website.
No, because if you're putting in a city-run grocery store, especially if you're going to undercut the prices of local grocery stores, what you're going to do is you're going to drive away those customers to your state-funded grocery store, shutting down the privately owned grocery store, and then of course the city-run grocery store is going to fail, and then the citizens are left with nothing. I don't see how that really helps anyone. It doesn't help the rich, unless you're in like the government or whatever. It doesn't help the rich because you basically destroyed their business. It doesn't help the poor because now they can't buy food. It's just like it's all around just a sucky idea.
And realize there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax. There's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. We've seen time and again that this is a problem.
That's a lie, though, because if you just wanted to be like, oh hey, which neighborhoods are overtaxed and undertaxed, you make a list of saying, oh, how much is each neighborhood getting taxed, sort it, and then say the ones that are being overtaxed, we'll address these. The ones that are being undertaxed, we'll address this. Versus saying, oh, we'll just target the white people. Like, bruh. What do they say? BFFR? Free freaking for real, I guess. like, come on, bro.
A description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. We've seen time and again that this is a property tax system that is inequitable. It's one that actually Eric Adams ran on saying that he would change in the first 100 days. He's since sought to defend it and lost at every juncture in court.
And I understand you're saying we're simply describing the types of neighborhoods that would see these increase in taxes, and yet by invoking race, do you run the risk of potentially alienating key constituents?
I think I'm just naming things as they are. And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness. It is not to work backwards from a racial assessment of neighborhoods or our city. Rather, it's to ensure that...
But that's what he's doing.
That we actually have an equal playing field. And right now what we see with the property tax...
Literally what he's proposing is the opposite of that.
Tax system is one that is overtaxing a number of New Yorkers and undertaxing others, and an inability of political will to resolve that.
So no plans to change that language on your website?
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
All right. You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Well,
that's a crazy thing to say, I feel like, because billionaires spend probably like the majority, well, maybe not the majority of money, but they spend a ridiculous amount of money. Like $1 billion is a lot of money, and they're not particularly stingy about it. Like, they will spend money on expensive housing, funding big projects, which they'll like buy a property, raise the land, and build a house there. That creates a whole lot of jobs. They will buy an expensive car that needs a lot of maintenance. That funds jobs. They will buy yachts. That funds jobs. They will buy Prada bags and all these things. Like, that creates jobs. And just the idea of taking the very richest people in society who spend like some of the most amount of money in that society and being like, no, we are going to take away a lot of your money because we're mad that we don't have as much money as you do, is just ludicrous. Because here's the thing, right? You would have to, for me to get on board with a policy like this, which I probably wouldn't anyways, but you would, if I'm going to be completely honest, you would need to say, okay, billionaires spend money this way. Me taking away the amount of the money that they would be spending on that particular thing is going to be spent in this other way that's going to be more beneficial than that person having a job, right? Than that person getting a random tip from a wealthy business person at a fancy restaurant. Like, you would just be hard pressed to me to argue that any form of government funds would be more advantageous to these people than having the jobs that they do because of the existence of billionaires. It's just like, that's a tall order for me, man. And I don't think I can get on board with a policy like that.
Let me ask you about what Donald Trump, the president of the United States, has had to say. He's had a lot to say about your campaign. He called you a communist. Because he's the president, I want to give you a chance to respond directly to him. How do you respond? Are you a communist?
He's not allowed to be a communist. I actually kind of hate this. I brought this up in a recent free speech video that I made, I believe. But, we need to change this law, because I do think that the laws that exist should be enforced, and I don't want this law enforced, is that I think it's still illegal to be like a professing communist or have a communist party in the United States of America. I think because of all the old McCarthyism stuff. We need to repeal that. I think that we need to let people show their true colors. If they're communists, just let them say that they're communists, and you can take it from there. If the people want communism, then hey, democracy rules. Vote in the communism and let the calamity commence. But he's never going to say that he is a communist because he is running for public office, and he would put himself in legal jeopardy if he decided to do so.
No, I am not. And I have already had to start to get used to the fact that the president will talk about how I look, how I sound, where I'm from, who I am, ultimately because he wants to distract from what I'm fighting for. And I'm fighting for the very working people that he ran a campaign.
I don't know that Trump has done that. I know that some others have. I think I was very disappointed to see Mary Morgan do this. There were some other folks as well who have pointed to Zohran Mamdani's looks, his name, those types of things. But I don't know that Trump has done that.
Because he wants to distract from what I'm fighting for. And I'm fighting for the very working people that he ran a campaign to empower that he has since then betrayed. And when we talk about my politics, I call myself a democratic socialist in many ways inspired by the words of Dr. King from decades ago, who said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there has to be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And as income inequality has declined nationwide, it has increased in New York City. And ultimately, what we need is a city where every single person can can thrive.
All right, stay right there. We are going to take a quick break. More of our exclusive conversation with Zohran Mamdani when we come right back. Stay with us.
I did not know that this was a doubleheader.